Explainer, September 11, 2001. Today, we're stepping back in time to look at an event that completely reshaped the modern world. We're not just going to recount the facts, we're going to break down the timeline, the immense human impact, and the global shockwaves of a tragedy that changed history forever. So let's get into it. 11 September 2001, a date the world will never forget. That's really not an exaggeration. The gravity of this specific date is completely etched into our global consciousness. It's our anchor today, reminding us of the immense weight and the lasting legacy of what we're about to unpack. Section 1. A normal morning. September 11, 2001, in New York City. To really grasp the shock of what happened, we have to understand how ordinary that morning started out. It was a beautiful Tuesday. People were grabbing coffee, heading into their offices, kids were off to school, and thousands of folks were already busy at their desks inside the massive World Trade Center. Literally, nobody had a clue that in just a matter of minutes, they'd be caught in the worst terrorist attack in history. That perfectly peaceful morning was shattered by 19 terrorists. They pulled off a highly coordinated plot, hijacking 4 American passenger planes. And their goal? It wasn't just to claim lives. They wanted to send a devastating, undeniable message of fear to the entire globe. Section 2, the timeline of terror and the unfolding tragedy. Let's walk through exactly how this unfolded, minute by agonizing minute. At 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 hit the North Tower of the World Trade Center. The impact was absolutely devastating. It immediately sent huge flames and just thick, dark plumes of smoke billowing into the New York sky. For a brief few minutes, the whole world was just confused. Everyone thought, was this some kind of horrific accident? But then, exactly 17 minutes later, at 9:03 a.m., United Airlines Flight 175 slammed right into the South Tower. And in that one terrible instant, the world collectively realized, no, this is not an accident. We are witnessing a planned, coordinated terror attack. Now, amidst all this horror, we absolutely have to talk about the human response. Inside those burning towers, thousands were trapped. And while civilians were frantically trying to find a way out, hundreds of first responders, firefighters, police officers, rescue teams, they were rushing directly into the danger. They didn't even think about their own safety. They just ran straight into those infernos to save as many people as they possibly could. But the nightmare wasn't confined to New York City. The attack was actually expanding. Down in Washington, a plane, American Airlines Flight 77, struck the Pentagon, the headquarters of the U.S. Department of Defense. All of a sudden, the terrifying scope of this plot was becoming incredibly clear. Section 3, Resistance and Collapse. Bravery and Devastation. While 3 planes had hit their targets, a 4th, United Airlines Flight 93, faced a very different outcome. When the passengers on that flight found out about the other attacks happening across the country, they made an unimaginable choice. They fought back. They actually stormed the cockpit. A struggle ensued, and the plane ultimately crashed into a Pennsylvania field. The sheer courage of those passengers absolutely thwarted another major strike on a critical target. Back in New York, the structural integrity of the Twin Towers was failing. At 9:59 a.m., the South Tower collapsed. Less than 30 minutes later, at 10:28 a.m., the North Tower fell. In just a few hours, 2 towering landmarks that totally defined the New York City skyline were just gone, reduced to a mountain of smoking rubble. Section 4, the global aftermath, the toll and the response. The human toll of that single morning was just staggering. Nearly 3,000 innocent lives were lost in these coordinated attacks. And beyond those who lost their lives, over 6,000 people were injured during the impacts and the collapses. The sheer scale of the physical devastation and human suffering is honestly hard to even wrap your head around. It's also so important to remember that this wasn't just a local tragedy for America. Citizens from over 90 different countries were victims that day. The World Trade Center was this massive hub for international commerce, which meant the shockwaves of grief literally reached communities across the entire planet. So who was actually responsible? Well, post-attack investigations laid the blame squarely on the terrorist organization Al-Qaeda and its leader at the time, Osama bin Laden. The response to this was swift and massive. The U.S. launched a large-scale anti-terror campaign, which included significant international military action, most notably kicking off operations in Afghanistan. But taking a step back, 9/11 was a huge global warning. It proved, in the most brutal way imaginable, that terrorism respects absolutely no borders. It was a harsh wake-up call for the whole international community. And so, every year on September 11th, we pause. We remember the thousands of innocent folks who just went to work that morning, and we honor the brave firefighters, the courageous police officers, and all the dedicated rescue workers who gave up everything, laying down their own lives to save complete strangers. Some events don't just become history, they change the direction of the whole world. 9/11 was for sure one of those events. It was a pivot point for humanity. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question. How do you see the ripples of that single Tuesday morning continuing to shape the world we live in today? Thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you next time.